caveat.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, hey, Angela, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out. And I want to begin our conversation with kind of a calamity. How did you survive the last 3.5 years or so in a pandemic, and how did it change you?
Wow. Okay.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for this one, but I'll give it my best shot.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I'm an independent consultant. I'm a consulting psychologist, been doing it for a long time. So when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, all of my clients just went into shutdown mode. So there was literally nothing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the first, I've been through recessions. I started my business in 82 during a recession. I've been through 87 was a recession. 92 was a recession, 2000, early 2000s, 2008. I've seen them all and survived them all, but this one was different because it was so broad reaching and so sudden and so unexpected.
Yeah.
And people didn't have a chance to prepare for it. So how did I survive? I just kept in contact with my clients, and kept my nose to the grindstone. When I had opportunities to work, I worked. And as a consultant, I don't know if you know or not, you wake up every morning without a job, and you have to create your own job. And fortunately, I've got some regular clients. A couple of those clients were deemed necessary business. So after that short period where they shut down because nobody knew what was going on, they started back up pretty quickly, and they kept me busy during the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Every time I ask this question, my brain goes through just a myriad of things. I mean, we all went through just a billion different scenarios. But I remember in the beginning telling my wife, this country is built on capitalism. There's
Yes.
no way they can shut it down. It's gonna be too much for anybody to bear. But yeah, I mean, it didn't matter. Everything was gonna come to a halt. So
It did, and I'm sure you knew businesses, as I did, that through no fault of their own, through nothing that they did, there was no decision that they could make that would change what happened to them.
yeah,
They went out of business.
yeah,
I had kind of a favorite little restaurant that I'd go to every Monday morning for breakfast, and it was in the middle of a complex of office buildings. So they were busy with breakfast and lunch because all the people would either have breakfast on the way to the office or have lunch. They'd walk from their office to this restaurant. And all of a sudden they had no traffic. I mean, zero traffic.
yeah. It's wild. The whole thing was wild. And I have a jazz radio show, so I was keeping an eye on clubs. And around the country, other cities got ravaged, just clubs in New York and LA. Kansas City did pretty good, and I think the loans helped. I think there was some things that factored into it. Some people were waiting for a rainy day, and that was a hell of a rainy fortnight to go through, so.
Well, Nashville survived it, I think, better than a lot of places.
Yeah.
Because they opened things up faster.
Yeah.
Than a lot of other places.
Yeah.
So there was a short blip. By the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, things had started to open back up.
Yeah.
And Nashville recovered pretty well.
I remember early on, Fauci said, everybody's going to get this. This is when everybody was doing their best to stay away. And obviously, we all didn't want to get infected, but he said, it's going to happen. And then right after that, he said, there's a level of herd immunity that's just going to be a natural vaccine for all of us. Yeah. And I keep thinking about that. I think we're still so close to it. As we pull the cameras back, we're going to see that maybe, shutting everything down and economically crippling people without any warning probably wasn't the best way to go about it. But that's just me. That's just.
Oh, no, it's me. It's me too. And I think they took a chainsaw to a tiny little piece of wood that something needed to be done, but I think social distancing and letting herd immunity take over was a better option than telling people they had to stay at home,
Yeah.
period, can't go out. It hurt kids in school. There's a whole group of children in that 8 to 12, 13-year-old range that really were hurt
Oh
by
man.
the
Yeah.
what they had to do with schools.
Yeah.
And I interview a lot of recent college graduates as management trainee candidates for my clients, and um, some of their classmates, the first 2 years of school for them, or the first year and a half, were remote. And I don't know, I was a college professor for 4 years, and I don't know how you teach kids, even adults, even young adults in college, how you teach effectively remotely. Because the interaction with the students is really the best part of teaching.
Those were seminal moments for me that I remember. I mean, above and beyond anything I did in secondary education, when it got to college, when I was actually in that cauldron of learning, it was massive. And it had to be, I mean, there was things to this day I remember that professors said to me that had to happen in person that I'll never
Sure.
forget, you know? So
The spontaneity of the classroom is something that you can't replicate remotely.
yeah,
If a student has a really good question, they're going to ask that question in a classroom environment. If they're sitting in their dorm room watching a Zoom video like this, it's going to be more intimidating or less likely for them to even have the opportunity to ask that question.
yeah. It's the difference between playing a real Super Bowl with real human beings versus a Madden video game.
Right. It's exactly what it is.
It's just, it's weird. But the thing is that we've been around the planet for a while. And when I look at these kids and what it did for them, they didn't have any resilience. They didn't have any measuring stick that said, okay, I've been alive for 20, 30, 40 years, and I've seen all of this without a pandemic. But that's all they knew was, a part of their existence is just totally tied to a pandemic and
Right.
masks and not like I remember the first time those social distancing commercials came on and they were telling you what to do. 6 feet away, don't make eye contact, or don't shake hands, or do all this. Everything that we were told as kids was negated and rolled back in like a week.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
bizarre.
It was bizarre. And I think, my generation is if you get hurt, you rub dirt on it and go on.
Yep.
And maybe your generation too, but there's none of that now. There's no
No.
rub dirt on it and go on.
No, it's over with.
There's no, I need an emotional support animal now because I can't go
Yeah.
to class.
Yeah, comedians can't make fun of people. It's just a
Oh,
bizarre time, man. It's
it
really
is.
weird. Really weird. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. So I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids says, hey, what do you do for a living? How would you answer them?
The way I answer that is I help businesses and business people make the best use of their most important resource, their people. There are people in every organization, and if I can help those businesses hire the right people for their culture and develop the people in that business so that they can be as productive and happy and fulfilled as possible, then I've done my job. And that's what I do. I help businesses and business people be as happy and productive as possible.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Professional baseball player.
Okay. All right.
I
So
There was only one thing missing from that whole equation. I was not good enough.
yeah,
I,
right.
I was pretty good, but I wasn't good enough.
I was in the same boat. I warmed the bench more than I did anything else. So let me ask you this. If you could go back in time and see one game, one moment in baseball history with your own eyes, where are you going?
Um, wow, that's a really good question. That's another one I hadn't thought. I want to go back and see Rocky Colavito hit 4 home runs
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
in one game because he
Yeah.
was my idol when I was growing up. Rocky Colavito was the guy.
Yeah.
The Indians, yeah.
I remember Rocky. Yeah. Yeah. I just watched the documentary on Yogi Berra,
I
and
haven't watched that yet. I want to. Don't give anything away.
no, the only thing I will say to you is that Yogi, and I've always known this, and this won't give anything away. Yogi is one of the most under the radar people in baseball, but he is one of the biggest influences that
Yes,
ever went through the game.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I'm old enough that I watched him play. I saw him play. I saw Mantle play, Whitey Ford, all those guys, because the Indians and the Yankees were in the same division. It was just the American League and the National League back then. So I got to see all those guys, Ted Williams. But Yogi Berra he
Yeah,
was a great hitter. Didn't have a strike zone. He did anything. He'd hit anything,
that's right.
but
Just
he'd make good contact with it.
yeah. He just knew how to do it. Yeah. So just all I will tell you is towards the end of the show, have tissues. It gets pretty heavy at the end.
Well, I still cry every time I see Field of Dreams, so I'm going to
Oh
have to.
man,
I'll really be
forget
crying.
about it. I know. Me too. I've been to Dyersville like 5 or 6 times, been to the movie set.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Wow.
I haven't been there since they've made it into kind of this big Major League Baseball thing, but I remember back in the day in the early 90s going there just being kind of mystified, and just you could play baseball and saw the house, and
Well, it's
it's
not that far from you either.
right. Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah. Yeah. So, but
Nice.
it was fun. So, let's get to how you arrived where you are today. Tell me about growing up and how these seeds got into you to want to help people. You don't just have a job. You have a job that where you give of yourself to others. How did that happen?
Um, I was raised by my grandparents because my mother was disabled, so she couldn't do much to raise me. My grandparents raised me. My grandfather was a dentist. My grandmother was a teacher. Back, she got her teaching degree in 1928, 29, and she taught deaf people. So she had the teacher mentality. I was raised by somebody who had a teaching mindset. So I was always, and I was an only child. So I was raised in an environment where there were high expectations for me academically, but never to the point where I felt pressure. It was just an expectation. You're going to,
Yeah.
after high school, you're going to go on to college. You're going to get good grades in high school. You're going to go on to college. And then I was going to be a dentist because my grandfather was a dentist. My father was a dentist, and I was going to be a dentist. So I go to Case Western Reserve, and all the classes that I was taking to become a dentist, I hated. So I took Psych 101 and enjoyed it. So I took Psych 102, and I figured maybe I'll minor in psychology. And then I took Psych 201. And the professor I had in Psych 201 was at the time the president of the American Psychological Association. So he's a big deal and a really good lecturer. Dynamic. I mean, he just caps. So do you ever have a teacher like that just kind of captured you
Yeah.
in a way that the other ones didn't?
Yeah.
Well, this guy captured me. And at that point, I fell in love with psychology. Had to go home, tell my folks, hey, I think I'm going to be a psychologist. And to their credit, they said, well, just do the best, be the best psychologist you can be. I was raised in a very supportive environment, which was a blessing. I try to do the same thing for my kids. So when you get an undergraduate degree in psychology, the only thing that prepares you for is more school.
Yeah.
So I got a PhD from the University of Georgia, and my goal was going to be a college professor. I was going to be a college professor. So I did that for 4 years, taught college, loved teaching, do not love all of the garbage administrative stuff that goes along with academia, which you're starting to see. More people now are getting an understanding of what academia really is like because of this Harvard and MIT, University of Pennsylvania nonsense that
Yeah.
we've been listening
Yeah.
to. Well, academia is like that all the time.
Yeah.
It's they will argue for hours about what color note paper to use for the tests. I mean, nonsensical. So I taught for 4 years, couldn't make much money at it, enjoyed the experience, but decided to leave academia and do something else, joined a consulting firm and moved to Memphis. I was in Oklahoma City. I moved to Memphis. And they taught me, the consulting firm taught me how to do what I do. And that's work with businesses. I had not a clue at the time how to work with business. And one of my first work assignments with the consulting firm was with a bank. And all I knew about a bank was there were tellers there that would deposit money or give you money. And there was a vault back there somewhere where they kept a lot of money. And that's all I knew. I didn't know about all the back office stuff and all of the different approaches to lending. So I learned a lot from about business. And I learned that if I'm good at what I do, I can make an impact on a lot of people. Because if that, some big businesses might employ 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people. And if you can help that business be better at what they do, yeah, especially in the way of how they hire and develop their people, you can impact way more lives than if you were just doing counseling one-on-one with people.
For sure.
That's kind of been my, what gives me pleasure is knowing that if I can help businesses be better, I'm helping a lot of people in the process.
Absolutely.
And their families.
Yeah, for sure. So who's been a hero for you in your life?
My grandfather was a hero for me. He taught me how to be a man. My high school baseball coach was a hero for me. He taught me so many things about life that I didn't really appreciate until later on. He taught me about responsibility and teamwork and practice and being honest and staying in shape. He was running laps in the 60s when everybody thought he was nuts.
Wow.
And he was doing it to stay in shape. They looked at him like he was crazy.
Yeah.
So he's been a hero of mine. A gentleman named Bill Cochran, who passed away a few years ago, was my first client in Nashville when I moved to Nashville. He was a hero of mine because he taught me what a good, true, honest leader looks like. I'd only been consulting a couple of years, so I've been exposed to some leaders, some good, some not so good. But he was the first one who I said, man, this guy really has got it together from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I got a chance to consult with him until he passed away. This is like 20 years. And even a little bit got to still be friends with him even after he retired. He was a hero of mine.
So if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Anybody alive on the planet? Wow. I hate to say this, but maybe Donald Trump. And the first thing I would tell him is just shut up and do your job. Just quit talking about it. And
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be it.
Okay. All right.
That's a really tough question.
Yeah, it is. It is. There's so many people.
When I was a kid, I'd say I want to meet the Pope.
Yeah.
Or somebody like that. But I really don't know. There aren't as many people that I admire now as there used to be.
Yeah.
I would have liked to meet John Kennedy.
Yeah.
I just watched the series on him recently, and he was a statesman, whether you agreed with his politics or not. He was a statesman.
Yeah.
And he would have been interesting to get to know. I don't see many statesman-like figures out there today.
I know. That's the thing. It's definitely gone away. What's the motivation every day for you to do the work that you do to help people? What gets you out of bed? What gets you motivated to be who you are every day?
What gets me motivated is the opportunity to do what I like to do. I mean, I enjoy my job. I don't consider it a job. It's not a calling either. I wouldn't do it for nothing. But It's it is a job, but it's a job that I have fun at, and I've had fun at it for 40 years, and I still wake up excited. Uh, I've probably interviewed 10, 15,000 people in my career, and I've never heard the same story twice.
Wow.
So I always look forward to hearing the next story.
Yeah.
I interviewed a gentleman in Singapore last night. He was applying for a senior role with my client in sales role in Southeast Asia, and he had his own story.
Yeah.
Never heard his story before. So hearing people's stories and seeing how those stories match up with whether they're the right person for that business gets me excited. And of course, my coaching gets me excited because I like to see people progress in their journey, their personal and their professional journey.
So what's one of your favorite success stories?
Okay, my favorite success story. I just had a really nice breakthrough with one of my coaching clients just in the last month or so. And he was struggling because as a leader, he had a tendency to blurt out things in the heat of the moment that he shouldn't blurt out. And we were working our way through that, and he finally had the epiphany that I was hoping he would have. He says, "This happens when I feel like I don't have control of the situation."
Yeah.
And it was the first time he'd made the connection to when does this happen and why does it happen? And that it made me feel good to see the light go on, because when I coach people, I don't try to give them the answers. I try to ask questions and help them arrive at the answer that's right for them. And for him to hit that just made me feel really good.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a 20-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained. What advice would you impart on that young version of you?
The wisdom I would say, put your thoughts down on paper sooner.
Yeah.
Write something, write blogs, write articles, write books. I wrote a book this year, came out in October. I would have done that sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although it would have been a much different book.
Right. That's the thing about, I've thought about that as I've gotten older, about sometimes we do wish that things would happen earlier, but would they come to fruition and be as impactful as they are? Because we're like wine. We're just sitting in vats. We gotta get better.
Yep, you gotta let it breathe. You gotta give it a chance to age. And I'm really not a person that looks back with regret. Sometimes I look back with fond memories, but I don't have many regrets because I got to move a little bit because I'm in a room that has a timer.
Oh yeah, so am I.
But it's not letting me move. So, there we go.
There we go.
Where was I going with that? Help me get back.
We were talking about the wine and about how you need time to let it breathe. And
Yeah, as I was saying, I look back with fond memories. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
Because everything that's happened to me up to this point has led me to where I am now. And I'm pretty damn happy with where I am now.
Yeah.
And if it's like the butterfly effect, if you change one thing along the way, it changes everything else.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't want anything to change where I'm not where I am now, because now it's pretty good.
So of all the things that you've done in your life, what are you the proudest of?
What am I the proudest of? I think I'm probably long-term, I'm the proudest of getting so far out of my comfort zone to start my own consulting business in the middle of a recession, when I never thought I would have the guts or the social skills. I was very introverted when I was growing up. And to have a consulting business where I have to sell my services to people, I suppose that's the thing that I'm proudest of on a professional level. I'm proud that all three of my boys are married, they have children, and they're productive members of society. I'm real proud of that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right on. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, those that get your book, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a good friend. I'm smart enough. I'm funny. I'm dependable. I'm competitive. And you can if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That's my perception of me.
I love it. Right to the point. So if anyone wants to pick up your book, learn more about you, reach out, hire you, how do they do that?
The title of my book is You're Making This Way Too Hard. Find Your Easy Way to Enjoy Life. It's available on Amazon. Recently, it hit #1 in happiness, which I'm very excited about. Didn't stay there for that long, but it was there for a minute, which is nice. You can reach me, go to my website. It's angelovalenti.com. You can email me at angelo@angelovalenti.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook at Angelo Valenti, Instagram, Dr. V213. That's how you can find me. And if you'd like to book a discovery call to see how we might work together, you can go to reachangelo.com. Very easy.
Excellent. Angelo, grazie. I appreciate your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Take care.